Well, good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Porch Talk.
Hi, Paul. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing good. And let me introduce someone to our audience out there. This gentleman here to my right is Matt Davis.
How's everyone going tonight? We doing good?
We're doing good.
We're
Good.
doing
Matt is
good.
with the local fire department, North Adams Fire Department. He's been a firefighter for how long?
This is coming into my 13th year.
13 years. Wow. And I imagine you fought a lot of fires. Big ones, small ones.
Here, yeah. So 13 years in North Adams. I did a year in Adams volunteering, and I did 6 to 7 years in Clarksburg. So
Really?
about 18 years. So I've seen a few fires in my time.
Yeah. And of course, back in, when was it, Paul? Beginning of January, I had emailed fire director, now fire chief,
Yes.
Mr. Costin, and,
Moranti.
oh, that's right, too. I'm thinking about, you said Stanford?
No, Clarksburg.
Clarksburg, okay. Clarksburg was Paul Ethier.
No, Chip Cheeseboro.
Oh, I thought
Paul Ether is Stanford.
Stanford. I get my little towns mixed up.
It's okay.
In January, I sent out an email requesting that Steve would send up or come on personally and do a show with us about the dangers of the winter. And since he didn't reply in a hurry, I got Carlos Pellegrini.
Pellegrini,
Okay.
yes.
And then I received a
No,
phone.
it's Carlo, not
Carlo.
Carlos.
Carlo.
Carlo.
And then I had a email from, or a phone call from John Marlowe saying that he was ready to come on. And I said, well, I already have a guest. How about the 19th? So John, being as smart as he is,
Yeah. Both John and I are fire educators for the city of North Adams.
Oh, okay.
So we're the ones that you usually see at the schools, talking with the children. We're creating some different videos. We've come down here and made a couple so far, and we're putting out a YouTube channel for it. So any type of education, we go to the nursing homes, the high-rise.
When's the last time you did a video?
We just made two of them in November and December. We did one alongside with the COVID Emergency Operations Center.
over at the airport.
Over at the airport. We're planning on making more just with the uptick of everything with COVID. We took a step back for a couple months. Here in the springtime, hopefully in the next month or two, we're going to be putting together a couple more on different topics. We've already made one station tour, so if you go on YouTube, you look up North Adams Fire Department, you can find our page. We have a station tour on there right now. We have fire kitchen safety little video, and we'll be making more about different things like that, brush fires, burning season. Next year, during the summer, we want to create some videos on like what we're going to talk about tonight, having winter safety, different things you could do with your heating systems, using electric heaters, things along those lines.
Right.
Well, the reason I ask is I haven't seen those videos here.
They are here.
Are here.
If you ask Dave, he's got them.
He's got them.
And he was going to start playing them before shows like this and city council meeting and things like that. So anytime he decides to give them to you,
Okay.
they will
Yeah,
also
well,
be
I think
broadcasted
they'll probably
here.
go on 1302,
Right,
which is our education channel.
right.
We would be very interested in doing some PSAs with you,
Absolutely.
public
Anytime.
service announcements.
Yeah, we'll do that anytime you want. We'll set up some dates and come down and work on some videos.
Since my
I'm
last-
sorry, the
No,
floor
no,
is
no, no.
yours now.
No. Never be sorry. Never apologize.
All right.
We got that one, didn't we?
Yeah.
since I had emailed Steve and talked to John, that we had 2 fires that really brought up the interest of people in North Adams. One was at the Greylock project,
Correct.
correct? And the other one was, of course, up on
VZ
VZ
Street.
Easy
Street.
Street.
And the main thing was, and I had a lot of personal phone calls at the house and a lot of emails.
Yep.
And on social media, people have contacted me wanting to know why this happens, yada, yada, yada. And I can recall maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, that I had talked to the then previous mayor about how many fire hydrants in the city of North Adams are not working and why. And they were gonna get back to me. Well, we have changed administrations and it's been 4 years since they've
Correct.
changed it. And this is a non-political show, so I don't wanna get into the politics side of it, but
Right.
from experience, I know that the hydrants themselves are not working. It's not the water lines going to them, because if it was, you'd have sinkholes and water all over the place.
Correct.
It's the fire hydrants themselves. And if you are familiar with them, but the people out there aren't familiar with fire hydrants, is when the firefighters get there, they open the side, hook up their hose, then they turn the fire hydrant on. Am I correct?
So yeah, so what we have pre-made connections on our fire engines. We have 3 fire engines, engine 1, engine 2, engine 3. Engine 1 is our front pump, meaning that truck is going to go on every call. It's going to be the first truck on the scene. That truck, like myself, mainly I'm a pump operator. So I drive the engine to the scene. We pull up, we get the hose flaked out, pulled off the truck, set up, and ready for the guys to go. Our second engine coming in, which normally is our engine 3, will pull a connection off of off the back of the truck with a 4-inch hose, and the connection has a 2-inch fitting that screws on to one side of the hydrant.
Right.
With that, we actually have a Y. So we have 2 outlets coming out. One that goes to the 4-inch. The other one we use as a bleeder valve. So we'll keep the 4-inch closed at first. We have to open the hydrant using a hydrant wrench.
Right.
That is usually 18 to 21 turns. And as we're going, we count every one. Because if you go too few,
Drops.
it just pours water out the bottom of the hydrant, and it will actually flood it out in a road, and the hydrant can sink and break off.
Right.
Once we open it up, we actually open up the side that doesn't have a hose. It flushes out the system, so we don't get any dirt or any
Sediments.
rock or anything like that into our pump, because if it goes into our pump gets ruined. We do have screens on our pump, but we still like to make sure that we're not getting any of that sentiment.
And with the system in North Adams being so old, and I mean it's old, there's
Right.
places down on Main Street where the pipes are how old, Paul? 100 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, easily.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You do have to flush
More
them
than
out.
100 years
Oh, yeah.
old.
What people don't understand is when you're opening the fire hydrant, you're not opening it up, you're actually opening it down, aren't you? Doesn't the gate go down through and open up?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure with the hydrants that we have, because there's different manufacturers.
okay.
But, I would assume it either goes down or up to open up a gate that allows the water to come through. So, once that's turned on, the other guys are making up the connection at the truck. Once everybody's set, we communicate with each other to open up the hydrant side so we get water. The most dangerous part about our job is that we have 750 gallons of water on our first truck pulling up. So we can have our lieutenant and 1 or 2 firefighters going into the building on a hose line, but I have to stay with that truck at that point to make sure, or whoever the pump operator is, to make sure that they don't run out of water. Once they go in, they're committed to that. So we always try to make sure that our hydrants are connected first, and we have a good water supply before they go in, so they're safe and any other crews going in after them using hose lines off that truck are safe.
Yeah, and you mentioned the
So what is it that's going on with the hydrants?
So to call a hydrant out of service, everybody has different views on it. As far as we're concerned, as the fire department, as firefighters, as the fire chief, and our union, if we can't get the caps off, one side or the other, it doesn't matter. If we can't open it up, if we open it up only 3 or 4 turns, it's out of service. We can't use it. So no matter what, it's out of service. What we did back in 2018 was our fire department went around the city checking all of the hydrants, or as many as we could. And we had a list. I myself put the list of hydrants into our CAD, which is our dispatching system.
Right.
So when we get dispatched to any call that's an alarm activation, anything like that, our dispatchers can give us the closest hydrants.
that's working.
Any hydrants in general. So in the past, they never had a list of non-working hydrants. It was never put into the system. So now that we're having all these, we've had issues for a long time. In 2018, we went around, we checked all these hydrants. We had at least 100 hydrants that we took and we gave a list to the Public Service Commissioner and the Water Department and said, here's a list of hydrants that we know we can't get the caps off of, or they're not opening up all the way, or whatever. And we had a list that the fire department made up. What happened to the list after the fire chief gave it to the public commissioner, I'm not 100% sure. It was out of our hands at that point. And that's the words from the chief, you know. So we did our due diligence.
Oh, yeah.
Now, keep this in mind. We used to have a water department that had 7 guys on it. More, 8.
8.
Okay. Right. So now our water department has 1 person on the
meter
water
reader.
department to do everything.
The meter reader.
No,
No, you
there's
got
the
another one
meter
besides
reader,
that?
and
Okay.
then there's another gentleman that actually goes around and he's in charge of all the water lines. So he does what he can, but there's, unfortunately, the city has to steal from Peter to pay Paul because they get on a job, they get a water main break. Okay, we have to take these guys from this part of the
Highway
city,
department
highway
also.
department to work with the water department. So, we've had some issues in the past. Right now, currently, which can maybe answer some questions that people are going to bring up, is the city right now had a conversation last Saturday with the mayor, the commissioner of public works, the fire chief. What the water department is doing is they're going around to hydrants and they're going to be checking all the hydrants to confirm for themselves what hydrants are in service, what hydrants are out of service. The ones that are out of service, you're going to start seeing these bags that are on top of these hydrants. Any bag that has any hydrant that has a bag on it, out of service. There's
okay.
no question. They
Well,
did.
that's helpful.
Yeah. So not only are they doing that, but they're also bringing this information back to the city, back to their dispatchers. We're putting it in our CAD dispatch system. So now when we get a call for any type of alarm activation, any type of structure fire, anywhere where we might need a hydrant, and they'll be able to say, hey, we have XYZ for hydrants, but this one's out and this one's out, so you should use this one's the closest, this one's the closest. And we can now plan what way we're going to come in with our secondary truck and hook up to that hydrant.
The hydrants that are distinguished by the bag out of order, is there any possibility that during the summer months, when it's easier, of course, that you could switch out some of the Public Works Department aligned with a firefighter to go around.
So,
And
so it's tough with the fire department because obviously we are union, so we have specific details as to what we do and how much we do and what the city wants to pay for us. Taking a firefighter out of service means that if we get a structure fire, he either has to leave in the middle of doing that job
or call in an extra overtime.
or he's stuck there, and then when you're down another guy at the fire scene.
Right.
So I believe there is a discussion of possibly hiring another person to help this summer to work on getting some more of these hydrants done. I'm not sure. I wasn't there for the conversation, but I'm sure it'll be public knowledge soon.
Probably there's some people out there who are retired, not retired, Paul, retired,
Yes.
that would probably volunteer to help. I know that if I was able to get around, I would love to volunteer to go around and take these fire hydrants apart and see exactly what's not working on them.
Right.
It's a very simple operation. I mean, once you turn that crank around on the majority of the fire hydrants, it pushes down, goes through a seal, and the fins open up so that the water can come through. Now, it's either not working, busted, probably seized up.
Seized up is a lot of the issues.
A lot of seized up, and that's where WD-40 comes in.
Right. And actually, in 2018, when the fire department did go out and checked hydrants, we did take Never Seize and WD. We used WD-40 and PB Blaster to try to get the caps off that were stuck. Anything that did come off, we go back and we coat them. We carry Never Seize in our truck, so at any type of fire now that we have, or anytime we practice, anytime we drill, and we use a fire hydrant, we're always putting Never Seize back on. So that way, but that's about the most that we can do as firefighters, because everything else is internal. You have to shut off the main water going to it.
Now, does every fire hydrant have its own shut-off, or is it connected to the line?
I would say most of them have a shut-off. That's part of the other problem, though, too, is locating the shut-off because our roads have been paved over and paved over and paved over. So it's one, finding the shut-off, two, trying to shut it off without digging up the street. So if they can get in there and shut them off easy enough, it wouldn't be too hard to work on them.
Yeah.
But again, it's getting the time to work on that and pulling away from other jobs that the water department needs to be on as well.
I think
Now, Matt, I'm going to interrupt you there.
Go ahead.
Because we want to do our history question too.
Okay.
So,
Oh, boy.
yes, there you go. Now, folks, both of you that are watching at home,
Hi, Chris.
this is a rather famous building in North Adams. When this photo was taken in the 1890s, it was the warehouse of the North Adams Shoe Company, owned by the Weber brothers, as I'm sure Matt is aware.
Sure. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, Paul. Anything you say.
Yeah. Anything. Be careful what you say to me. Now, later on, it was the headquarters of a candy company. So our question is two parts. It's a two-part question. Part one, where is that building? Because it's still on the same location more than 100 years later. And the other question is, what business is in there now?
Wow.
So if you think you know, if you have a wild guess, please give us a call at 664-4408. If you are desperate to hear some other voice than the three voices, two mostly, that you've been hearing so far, give us a call at 664-4408. And remember, if you get even one of the two questions right, you're going to have bragging rights galore for 2 weeks. You will be able to swagger down the street. I knew the answer to the question. So now that that is out of the way for now, what?
Yes. Can I just say one more thing?
You can say a
Of
lot.
course.
Okay, so just one more thing we're asking from the city residents. Everybody's out shoveling, everybody's out snow blowing.
Hang on.
Oh boy.
Hello, welcome to Porch Talk. What can we do for you?
Hi, Paul. Hi, everybody. This is Chris.
Hi,
Hello,
Hi, Chris.
I'm going to take a guess. Is that where the Climate Candy was, and now it's Sanford and Kids?
Yes, exactly.
got 'em both.
Wow, very good.
So, what's the location?
It's Houghton Street in Bracewell.
Exactly.
Nice.
Boy, oh boy.
Woo,
You know, you had,
Hey, 2 in a row? That's a miracle.
Chris, you had bragging rights for the
I know.
last two,
Will you take
the
care?
last 2 weeks. Now you got them for another 2 weeks.
There we go. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you
I'm
for
going to have
calling
to
in.
come up with a real killer for next week. The
You know
next
what was
show.
the best one that you ever put on that really stumped me? Was the one of the, I'll tell you after the show, you may be able to use it
Okay.
again. Okay, remind me, because I don't want to say what it is over the
Okay.
air.
Have you pressed drop? There you go.
There
Okay.
we go.
Well done. Now,
Okay.
I have a story
Wait a
for
minute.
you.
Wait.
He was talking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Quick PSA. Please help out the fire department. We are limited on hydrants right now. If you're out and shoveling, if the nearest hydrant to your house has snow around it, ice around, whatever, please go out and shovel. Do your best to clear 3 foot all the way around on both sides, all the way around the hydrant, so we can get in there. It saves us a ton of time because when the folks in the city aren't doing it, we have to come. If we show up at a fire, that's the first thing that we have to do. And whether it takes us 30 seconds or 5 minutes to shovel it out, it's a lot of work, and it loses us time getting into the building and having extra hands actually in the fire rather than trying to make that hydrant. So any type of help with hydrants is great. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Do you remember Maud and Diamond? Got him, Paul. I got him.
Got me too.
Maud and Diamond were the 2 horses they had.
Oh, yeah, you know what? We were talking about that the other day. We had some
Okay.
photos.
Now, how come you don't have a Dalmatian up on the fire trucks?
It's a lot of work.
But if you had a Dalmatian up there, you get to
So,
the fire, you let them go.
If we
They'll
were
find a hydrant.
If we were in Boston, if we were in Chicago, or if we were in Los Angeles, that Dalmatian is the best dog for finding people in a search and rescue situation.
Absolutely.
So we haven't done many search and rescues unless we're out in the woods, and now most people have cell phones, so it's pretty easy to locate them. So
Well,
that's
I
part
still
of the.
would like to see a Dalmatian up on the.
Well, you can buy one and bring it down anytime you want.
You hear that, John?
See,
He can have a dog.
you can have a dog.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, go.
Thank
Yes.
you. Now, I have a suggestion for you.
Okay.
In the spring, you have children, don't you?
3. Yes.
So, oh my goodness, ages?
14-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl, and a 4-year-old girl. So,
Ooh,
yes.
boy. Well, you take your kids over to Greenfield,
Okay.
to Old Greenfield Village.
Yep.
It's a private museum. You pass it on your way down the hill into Greenfield along Route 2.
Okay.
He has a fabulous collection of all kinds of things. When the Greenfield police updated their jail,
Yeah.
they gave him their old cells. So he was going to start working on having a jail there. Well, one of the things that I saw when I was there was he had a steam-driven pumper
Really?
that the Greenfield Fire Department gave him, and they told him that it works today as well as it ever did.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
it works as well as a modern pumper.
Yeah.
Well, he can tell you where the term fire plug came from.
Oh, boy.
And I am the one who figured out how that pumper worked.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, the thing is, the fire plug comes from the fact that in the early days, they did not have fire hydrants. They dug a hole down to the wooden water pipe, drilled a hole in it, and that started filling up that pit.
Ah,
They would drop in the inlet from that pumper.
right.
And the steam pump is what pulled the water out of there.
Right.
Now, as for how it got out, it has a big onion-shaped metal thing on the front. And I had to think about it for a long time, but I got it before I left. That was a ram pump.
A ram pump. Okay.
Yes. Now, you know what a ram pump
Yep.
is?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. For those of you who don't, it's a pump that works by the force of water flowing into it. As long as the water is flowing in with enough force, it will keep pumping and firing the water out. So that steam pump draws out the water and fires it into the ram pump, which then puts it out through the hose.
Right. And you figured it out.
Yes, I did.
That's awesome.
And what did they give you for that? Bragging rights or?
No.
No?
Pat on the back and see you later.
Yeah.
Well, just to let people out there know, some of the people that contact me say, well, why doesn't the city buy some new fire hydrants? Well, there's, last count, I believe, don't quote me on this one, I believe it was 143 fire hydrants that were not working. And the even a used fire hydrant costs $500, and they don't guarantee that it's gonna work.
Yeah.
But the new ones are between $1,500, $2,000.
Right. It's a lot of money.
It is.
And a lot of the money comes into having personnel to install it. And that's, I think, one of the biggest costs and one
Oh,
of the
yeah,
biggest
yeah.
things that need to be resolved.
Excuse me. If the city was to purchase some new fire hydrants, and I believe there's some down at City Yard, there may be
I
some
do
down
believe
there.
you're right, but I can't be 100% sure.
See, I know more than it looks like I know, right?
I didn't say anything. I know everybody knows a lot more than they look like they know. So,
But the thing is, personnel to put them in place.
yes,
That's the thing.
absolutely. So that's another budget issue that the city will have to come to and say, you know, what do we need to get done this spring and this summer and this fall?
Well, if
And it should be on the top of the list.
If they have if your CAD, your spreadsheet puts out where the fire hydrants are not working, and if this table is a city block,
Yep.
and you got 4 hydrants, and this one and that one are not working, so you know these 2 are working.
Correct.
So you would zero in on these 2 to replace them.
Right.
All right. Enough about fire hydrants, because all the
Well,
people that...
well, actually,
another
I
question?
wanted to look at the VZ Street fire
Okay.
because I actually live just up the street from where the
Okay.
fire took place.
Yep.
So you have the hydrant across the street from the house. You couldn't have a more convenient place for a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
But that didn't work. And I'm guessing that the one up the street from me didn't work either.
So I think the issue with that was they wanted to take something off of River Street and come up because there was no traffic and there were no cars parked on that side of the road. So we always look at a fire scene as if we need more people coming in or if there are already vehicles parked there, what's our best solution and where should we come in from to tie in a hydrant and everything else. So if we needed another ladder truck to come in to help put out that fire, or if we called in Williamstown or Clarksburg, you know, where are we going to put these trucks as they arrive? So it's not as easy as we have a hydrant here, we're just going to take that first hydrant that we see. But yes, I believe the hydrant above on VZ was out. The one across the street was out. The guys on the ladder truck, when they came in, they grabbed the one that finally fed our engine 3 in the ladder truck. Because we can't just take city water and put it into our ladder truck. We don't have a pump on our ladder truck. So we have to take water from the hydrant, put it into our engine 3, and then boost the pressure up to get what we need out of our nozzle on our ladder truck. And same with any of our other hoses when we're fighting a fire.
You got 2-inch hoses? They're all 2 inch?
We
We have a
have
4-inch coming off the hydrant.
we have a 4-inch coming off the hydrant. We have 2.5 for our bigger attack lines if we're going to go defensive, which
Yeah.
we did on VZ Street. So those will either have a nozzle on it. Usually we'll put either a ground monitor on it. That's our best way of fighting a fire with a 2.5, because we can just set it there. One guy can sit there, it digs into the ground, and they can adjust the nozzle and hit it however they need to, and it relieves other guys to do other jobs on the fire scene.
Let me just tell you something. The year before I retired, we were doing a demolition over in Pownell, Vermont on the Pownell Tannery,
Yep.
okay? They had a 4-inch sucker into the Hoosick River.
Right.
Coming up, neck down to a 2-inch hose,
Yep.
had a nozzle on it, on the 2-inch hose. And guess who had to stand there for 8 hours a day?
You,
Watering
oh, yeah.
down.
Yeah, and it depends on how much pressure you have on it, but it's
Well,
a
that-
big
that-
line and it's heavy and it's a lot of pressure.
That 4-inch,
Oh yeah.
it was really, I mean,
Yeah.
I could not let go with one hand.
Oh yeah.
2 hands on that hose for 2.5 hours, then you break for 15 minutes.
Right.
2 hours break for lunch. 3 hours, go home. And I'll tell you something, when I went home, you can attest to this, I was almost crippled up.
Oh,
from
yeah.
that.
It's a
And
lot.
That was 8 hours a day for a month or so.
Yeah. It's tough.
Okay, let's get away from the
Okay,
hydrants.
forget
Let's
the
get away from
hydrants.
CO2 monitors, smoke
So,
alarms.
so first of all, let me correct you. It's CO, carbon monoxide, not
not CO2.
dioxide.
You're right.
So we're CO detectors. So right now the laws changed last year for smoke detectors again. Let me just talk about that real quick and then lead into the COs. So smoke detectors now, if you're going to the store to replace your smoke detectors, you're going to now just have to worry about getting photoelectric smoke detectors in a residential house, 1 or 2 family. And they're all going to have a sealed 10-year battery in them. So you won't have to change your batteries anymore. This isn't a national code. This is a Massachusetts code. You know, lots of states are changing to this. It's a lot easier. People don't have to remember, hey, daylight savings time, I'm going to change my batteries. It saves a lot of money in doing that. We still recommend, with those smoke detectors being put in, that you still check them once a month, just to make sure they're working properly. You know, you don't always have to, if it chirps now and then, throw it out. You can always get a little can of compressed air or take a little air compressor and blow it out. There's sometimes dust or a spider web or something like that in your smoke detectors.
All right, now, does the city of North Adams, I believe that the town of Williamstown, we're not on Williamstown, are we?
No, we're not.
But I believe that the town of Williamstown, and a good friend of mine, Eddie McGowan.
Yeah,
Remember Ed?
I do.
Okay. When I retired, I started doing some side jobs, and I was putting the smoke alarms in a house over in Williamstown, and Ed come in and said, can't use them anymore. I believe the town of Williamstown has to be direct wired. I'm not sure if they changed it or not.
So there's always stipulations. So when we're talking about just replacing a smoke detector, if you have a hardwired smoke detector currently in your house, you have to replace it with a hardwired. If you are doing construction and you do a certain amount of, how do I want to say it? So there's certain percentages of demolition. So if you're tearing out your walls and you're in a bedroom, they're going to say, okay, if you're taking out permits, you have to hardwire in a smoke detector in this bedroom. Okay. If you're doing the whole house, they're going to make you hardwire the whole house. And, you know, that's where all the new codes come in. And that's something that once you get to that stage in your construction, if you're doing it yourself, you would have to obviously look up the codes. If you have a contractor coming in, he should know what needs to be put in place. But if you have just your everyday run-of-the-mill battery-operated smoke detector, you're just going to go down to whatever store you decide to go to, Aubuchon, Carr, Walmart, wherever, and you're going to look for a Photoelectric with a 10-year sealed battery, and that's what you're going to put in. What people come into the issue with is they go to sell their house and they have to make sure all the smoke detectors are up to date, and you have to have a certificate that says the fire department has been there. You get a certificate saying that all your detectors, including your CO, are up to date in the correct spots. That way when the next person moves in, they're safe. If before you go and buy any detectors, you can call the fire department and schedule a placement. The phone number for the office to schedule an appointment to do a placement is 413-662-3103. And that would be the office number. You're most likely going to talk to Stacy in the office. And what she'll do is she'll set up an appointment with one of our lieutenants or one of our officers to come up to your house and say, okay, you need this detector here, a detector here, a detector here. Along with smoke detectors, every living floor of your house, any floor that you're going to be in more than an hour a day, let's say, whether it's a basement or your garage, well, not garage unless it's attached, things like that, you need to have a CO detector on each floor. CO it's not heavier than air, it's not lighter than air, so it's going to disperse evenly. So you can have it on your wall, you can have it on your ceiling, it's going to pick it up. You can get 10-year photoelectric smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors that are built in together.
Together?
If you buy one of those,
I got those for my my duplex.
and they're great. You have to make sure that it talks. It can't just set off beeps, because what the issue was, they were going into alarm. One set of beeps was for the smoke detector. One set was going for the CO detector. People were getting confused as to what they were. So now they make them. You have to get one that talks, and it'll say, alarm, 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 and it'll say there's a CO detector activated, or whatever each brand says, because there's so many brands out there.
Well,
now.
I'll tell you, two of my tenants got freaked out when the meter started talking. It was the one in the cellar,
Yeah.
and I had to go down and listen to it. It was telling them the battery was low. And by that time, they had called the police,
Right.
they'd called the fire department, who came up and said that the carbon monoxide levels in the kitchen were high.
Yeah.
And so what am I going to do about it? Well, gee, I don't know. I can get a new stove. Oh, well, yeah, but what are you going to do in the meantime? And
Right.
so they left for the night. I went next door and got the cat, brought it over to my house, freaked that poor creature out. And it
I don't know
turned
why.
out, yeah, and then it turned out to be that the pilot light was going out of control, and it was cooking the underside of the stovetop.
So in that circumstance, if you ever have any questions, anybody in the public, in general, if you have a question why a CO detector is going off, why a smoke detector is going off, call 911, get out of the house, and the fire department will come. We have 4 gas meters, which will tell us if there's carbon monoxide, if the oxygen levels are off, and if we, even if you smell gas, we'll come up, and if we smell gas, if we sense anything's off, we'll call the gas company, and they come right out for us, and we'll check it out. It's better to be safe than to be hurt in any way, shape, or form.
My detector goes off a lot when we're cooking and we open the stove, the door. And I don't
Is it her or is it you?
I didn't say.
See?
No, either one of
See,
us.
he's
If we
burying
open,
himself over here.
if we open the door,
Yeah.
okay, the smoke alarm will go off. And I don't know if it's from the heat or
How
from,
old is a smoke detector?
Well,
Okay, so that
I
means you
think
should
the,
replace it.
Is that right? Okay.
Because we always recommend if the life expectancy out of a smoke detector is about 10 years.
Oh, okay, it's older than that. Yeah.
Right. So we
Yeah,
recommend.
isn't the serial number on that 1?
No, it's 0001.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so a lot of people are coming to the point where carbon monoxide detectors were coming out, probably around 10 years ago, and they're going off all the time now. And we get a lot of calls for it, and we go and we check them out, and we check the installation date, which should always be written on them. If you do put batteries in, because it's an older detector,
Yeah,
you should
we
keep
put-
track of when the date was that you put the
We do
batteries
that.
in. But also buy new batteries. A lot of people will take a battery that's been sitting in their closet for 5 years and go put it in. Well, it's already dead. So you put the detector back up, it's chirping again. Well, there's little things like that. You want to make sure that you have the best.
Well, before we
Products.
before we put the smoke alarms in, we had a canary.
Had. See that?
Had a canary. Now, we put the smoke alarms in, and I was told one time not to put it in the stairwell.
You should have one at the bottom and the top of every stairwell.
Bottom and the top.
Yes.
What, Paul?
Nothing.
You should have one within 10 feet of every bedroom. We recommend to stay further away from a bathroom if you can, because the steam can come up and that will interfere. Same with the kitchen if you get too much smoke. But what they figured out is these photoelectric smoke detectors are the best that you can do.
That's the kind to get. Right?
Yeah,
The
photoelectric with a sealed 10-year battery. And that's your best bet. And like I said, anybody has any questions and needs a placement, if you call 413-662-3103, Stacy will set you up. But make sure you say you're looking for a placement, because if you're looking to sell your house, you would call the same phone number, but that you would request a different way because you need to sell your house. So a placement doesn't cost anything. We're just going to come by. We're going to tell you what you're going to get, and you'd go out and buy it and install it yourself.
Which
Well,
stoves?
we actually had a recipe that would have set off a smoke alarm in the kitchen. It was, now this is going to sound weird, but it was blacktop bread. My mother was baking bread for a church sale, and she would preheat the oven with the broiler, and she forgot to turn the broiler off. So when it was supposed to be done, the bread wasn't baked, but the top was burned black.
Right.
So she put it in and let it bake. Well, I tried that, and strangely enough, it tasted good. It
Really?
had that char on top. And so we tried making it deliberately, bake the bread and let it sit under the broiler until it was black. And of course, smoke is coming out
yeah.
of the oven.
Did it taste good?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then that's all
Still
that matters.
tasted
Well,
good.
Paul had a problem, I don't know how many years ago, with his wood stove.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Let's hear it.
Wood stoves are something you really have to be careful with a wood stove. We used a wood stove, it nearly burned the house down.
Okay.
And you know what the fire department told us?
Don't have a wood stove?
No, they said, get rid of that stove and get one made of metal and burn wood inside it.
Okay.
And I don't even want to talk about the coal stove.
Oh, boy.
No, heating, no, this time of the year, the heating.
Right.
Wood stoves, be careful of the material that you're burning
Yes.
with. Do not use any scrap lumber
Right.
from building, from construction or anything.
So, yeah, so at this point in the season, and we have a lot of new residents in the city of North Adams and all around us with COVID going on. A lot of people moved from the city and moved up. They're coming across wood stoves, fireplaces, oil burners, you know, everything, coal,
Kerosene?
everything under the sun, pellet stoves. And you know, luckily so far we haven't had anything related to that. We always get maybe a furnace blowback that would be caused by if you have an oil furnace or your oil is heating your boiler system, not having a properly maintained furnace. So usually you could go a year, year and a half, but we recommend once a year, usually at the beginning of the season or end of the season, however you want to do it. Call up the local oil company that you're getting oil from, have them come out, have a service tech come out and go through it. They'll clean the jets, they're going to go through, they're going to change the filter, they're going to make sure everything's up to par, and it helps because it saves a lot of damage in the future, because with a furnace blowback, if it's not clean, you're going to get soot throughout. If it's in the basement, your basement is likely to get filled with smoke.
My
And-
wife calls our oil person up every year in the spring.
Yep.
Makes an appointment. Once the heating season is over with, they come up and they do a complete maintenance on our furnace. So
Right, and that's great. As far as that goes, same with if you have a wood stove, if you have a fireplace that you're burning wood. Like you said, you don't want to really burn any construction material ever. You want to use hardwood if possible, you know, like a maple, a cherry, something along those lines. And, you know, so pine and softer materials create a lot of creosote, and that creosote goes up into the chimney, and it starts to stick to the sides, and it builds up. And this is why people get chimney fires, is because it blocks the passage. Well, all that heat builds up, and then it ends up catching on fire and starts coming out of the chimney, and we get called, and we have to come up, and we break it apart using chains or whatever we can. The issue is that if something cracks because that gets so hot from heating up,
If your
you're
flues
going to
crack-
have to put in a new liner. So it's a lot easier and a lot cheaper before that happens to call up a chimney sweep, whoever you have. Everybody uses the internet. Look on Google, find somebody, and have your wood stove, the pipes cleaned out, have your chimney cleaned out. Just save yourself a lot of hassle.
And how often should that be done?
That should be done every year as well, depending on how much. If that's your main source of heat, you might do it once at the beginning of the season, or once at the end of the season, and once in the middle. It all depends on how much you're actually using it. If it's just a recreation, hey, we want to have a nice mood setting, you know, fire in our fireplace, maybe once a year you can do it.
Well, I'm going to give
All
it.
together now, Children roasting on an open fire.
No.
I'm gonna send,
no.
tell people out there, I'm gonna give them a hint. I had a wood stove in my cellar. And the back of the wood stove on my chimney that I put in,
Yep.
I had a clean out up above and a clean out on the bottom. And people would say, why 2 clean outs? Well, I would open the top one, take my brushes, push it up, pull them down, and everything would go down to the bottom.
Right.
We'll close them at the top, open the bottom, and take all the soot out. And I had the cleanest chimneys in town because every few months,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
would take a mirror, open up the top one, look in with the mirror to see how much soot was building up.
Oh yeah. It's the way to do it. And the other heating source that we're seeing now, a lot of people are using, are electric small heaters that can be this big. They can be full-size fireplaces. They could
fireplace,
be
yeah.
little ceramic jobs that are this big. The main tips that we want to put out for that is plug it directly into the wall. Don't use extension cords because the
gosh,
extension cord, that draws a lot of heat. And you can, if you don't have a heavy-duty extension cord, it can melt the extension cord. If you have it plugged into 10 other things, it's going to heat up that electrical strip and it's going to melt that. And make sure you don't have anything around it for 3 feet. You got to make sure there's no clothes. You know, everybody loves to dry their clothes over a nice fire. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. But a lot of the materials that are used today for like snow pants and coats, they're vinyl, they're made out of this synthetic material that just melts very easy, very, very easy. And that can be a big cause. So make sure you have at least 3 feet of space around these heaters.
Well, isn't that a requirement on a wood stove? You have to have it should be on brick.
Yeah,
or
brick or
slate,
cement.
Right.
Right, and 3 feet.
Right, so I'm not 100% sure on the newest requirements,
Well, they change
but that's something
every
that,
hour by the hour.
well, yeah, and that's what we have a fire chief for, who can answer all of those questions,
Well, that would come
and
under
the building department,
code,
right.
Billy was Bill Marantz.
Certain things are inspected by the fire chief, and certain things are inspected by the building department, and
Well,
you know how
it's
it
a
goes.
family deal,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah. So if I can, really quickly, I only want to touch on one other subject.
Go ahead.
So for me personally in the fire department, we know right now is burning season. So you can burn brush right now. Burning season goes from January 15th to May 1st. What I want to put out there is the correct information for the city of North Adams. Some cities are, you can do it online to get a permit for the day. The city of North Adams, we're still old school. You call the fire department number 413-664-4923. You need to call every day to get a permit, same with every city or town. Burning starts at 10 in the morning, no earlier. It's out by 4. You need to call every day because, one, we keep track of who's burning, how many people are burning, where they're burning. So if the 911 dispatch gets a call for, hey, there's a campfire and there's, you know, somebody just burning, it's fine. But if there's a lot of smoke because you're burning leaves, which you shouldn't be doing, we want to know if somebody's already called in and has a permit for that or if they're just burning.
How much do the permits cost?
Permits in North Adams are free. Other cities and towns cost money, but we do have guidelines from the state. You have to be 75 feet away from any structure, any building. Whoever calls in to burn for the day has to stay with that fire from the time they call in that they're burning till the time the fire's out.
No.
Well,
have
you
to
know,
have-
that reminds me of 2 things. One, I can remember when we used to burn our trash.
Yes, not acceptable.
Yeah, can't do that anymore. And when I was working at the hospital, one night somebody reported a fire in the woods down the hill from where the helicopter landing pad was.
Yeah.
And it, of course, the fire department rushed up there. Turned out to be a couple of kids who were camping out in the woods
Yeah.
and just having a campfire.
Unfortunately, yeah, we get calls all the time on everything. So we do like to keep a track of who's burning, when they're burning. You know, we can let dispatch know. We can look it up before we go.
Any requirements that you have to have while you're burning? You have to have equipment there?
So
Like a hose or-
yes, you have to have some. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a hose. We really like a hose, but some way to extinguish the fire if it starts to get out of control. So a hose could be a 5-gallon bucket of water. It could be, you know, rakes and shovels to rake it back in, but we really prefer to have some sort of hose or something nearby to extinguish
Who
it.
refills fire extinguishers? Pittsfield do it?
I think Pittsfield Fire and Safety. We don't take them at our fire station. I know that's who we use, the city uses, to recharge ours. But that's something that you would have to call, because we do get a lot of people that try to bring us fire extinguishers.
No.
And we used to in the past, but probably the last 10 or 15 years, we've really tried not to take any home extinguisher, because that's a cost that the city has to incur as well, taking them and getting rid of them.
Mine is you pull the top off, hold the bottom, and swing it. You ever see one of them?
No.
It's a-
I
when was
have
that?
one.
How old is that,
1950?
John?
I have one. It's got a pump in it.
Yeah.
A Nerf gun.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to finish up on that, just so people know, you can't burn your trash. You can't burn construction debris. No leaves. Really, we just want tree branches and limbs. You can't burn a whole tree up in one shot. You know, we still want this to be under, you know, a controlled fire. We do ask also to call every day, and we get people who are mad because they can't burn some days. If we have a day that it's a red flag warning, it's really dry, something like that, the state has a whole system that they figure out how the humidity is and the temperatures are, and sometimes they tell us, sometimes we decide on our own, because we live in a valley and we get some good amounts of wind that come through, and you know, we might have to say, no, today is not a burn day.
I hate to cut you off, but we have just
One,
over
one,
a
one.
minute
Wow.
left.
How about our next show, we get his father down here
Oh boy.
Ooh.
with a little bit of...
Sounds good to me.
All right, I will give Bob a call. He is-
Okay.
Little Middle Eastern music.
Oh, yeah.
I might have to come with him, because I play the drums.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, I thought maybe you would, Paul could dance.
I heard he's a good dancer.
Okay, so we have
You're gonna see
just
him?
over
Are you
30
gonna see him?
seconds
Have him
remaining.
give me a call.
I will.
So thank you very much,
My
Matt,
pleasure.
for coming.
Wow.
We love
You
having
said
you.
a whole hour? We got to spend a whole hour? We're still talking.
Well,
Yeah,
listen,
we'll
I
have
could go
to have
on
you back
every
again
night.
sometime.
Yeah,
Ed,
absolutely.
thank you for coming. Joan, thank you for coming. Emily, thank you for directing. And Phil, we always love you, Phil.
Thank you.
So, thanks for watching. We'll see you again in 2 weeks, first Friday in March. Have a wonderful night.
Stay safe out there. Stay warm.